In our video today, we're going to create this bearing that you see on the screen. And what happens is when we grab the inner race, we should be able to spin it and see the bearings move appropriately. There's a few parts here. The inside circle is called an inner race. Then we have an outer race out here. Then we have the bearing ball itself, so the copper piece here, that's the bearing ball, and then the silver piece around it, that's actually called a cage. So it's got one there on that side and also one there, and all the cage does is kind of help support them, hold them in place a little bit better. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I want to do is I can go down here to home, or I could go up to new. Let me show you going to the new wave first. You go to new, and then this menu should pop up. The issue with this whole thing is we need it to be metric this time. So we're actually going to have to click up here where it says ENUS for English US. Go down here to metric. And now you can see that all the metric stuff's going to pop up. So we'll say standard millimeter.ipt, and that's where we'll use our parts from. If you go the other route and you say home, right now it probably says part, assembly, drawing, and presentation. Here in the middle though it says advanced, right? So we could click this little arrow and now we have a whole lot more options, like here's metric. So we could expand that, and really we're just looking for standard.ipt, but we need the mm in it so we can get millimeters. So our very first step now is going to be to actually create the outer bearing. So I'm going to start 2D sketch just like anything else. I'll choose the XY plane, and I'm going to start actually with a rectangle. I'm just going to put a rectangle up here on the screen. I want the dimensions of that, the length, I want it to be 62. I also know that I want the bottom, so the bottom line here to the center, to the origin, I want that to be 106 millimeters. Then from the top to the origin, I would like that to be 130. So we've got 62, 106, and 130. We're going to have to also put a circle in here. And the circle, what we're going to do is basically a revolution. So check it out. I'm going to put a circle in here. And I want the diameter of the circle to be 48 millimeters. And I want the dimension from the center point of the circle to the bottom line of the rectangle, I would like that to be 16. Now we've got to do some work here. So I'm going to use the vertical constraint right here. So the vertical constraint looks just like that. And then I'm going to say, give me the midpoint. All I'm doing is hovering my mouse. Give me the midpoint of the rectangle and give me the origin. So now they're on the same line. I want to repeat that with the center point of the circle and the origin as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit finish sketch now. So now we're going to do a revolution. To revolve it, we're going to go in here, click revolve. We're going to click this for our profile, and then I'm going to come up here and select axis, right? Now I am going to go ahead and expand the origin. We're going to have to do that a lot in this video. And I'm going to choose the axis I want to revolve around. In this particular case, I want it to be X. So when I click X, you see what happens. And then I'll click OK. So now I have my outer bearing. Before we move on though, let's remember and let's go ahead and assign some actual materials. So I'm going to go back to the Autodesk material library. Let's go with stainless steel. I am going to go up here and save. Alright, so we're going to create a new part now. Now we're going to do the inner race. So I'll start with a sketch, just like normal. It's going to be very similar to the last one, right? So I think for my length, I'll make it 62, and we'll just leave the height alone for now. Let's say I dimension the bottom line to the origin. I want that to be 50 this time. And the top line to the origin, I want that to be 74 millimeters now. This time we're going to put a circle in again, but we're actually going to go above it. So there's a circle. Its diameter will be 48 again. And the dimension between the center point and the top is going to be 16. So we got to do that fancy stuff again. Remember, we're going to use this vertical constraint here. And I'm going to get the midpoint of the rectangle and make it over the origin. I'm going to do the center point of the circle and do it over the origin as well. Back up to revolve. Here again is our profile. We'll come select axis again. And remember, just like last one, we're going to expand the origin over here. And we're probably going to find that x-axis again. So when we click it, you can see what's going to happen. We'll hit OK. So there's our inner race. Let's go ahead and material up on that, right? Let's keep it the same. So I will go ahead and save that piece now, and we will call it the inner race. So we've got the outer race, we've got the inner race. For our next part, we'll start a new one again, make sure it's standard, and then we're in millimeters. This time we'll create the ball itself, so the ball bearing. So I'm going to start a 2D sketch, and honestly, we've done quite a few of these. I'll just start with a circle. I'll make it 48 millimeters. And really all I'm going to do is take a line now, and I'm going to draw the line right down the middle of this thing. So I'll hit finish sketch on that, and we'll go to revolve. We'll click the side we want to revolve. It doesn't matter which one, they're equal, right? Select axis, and that straight line we drew, that will be our axis this time. So there's our ball for the ball bearings. Let's go ahead and make this a different color though, and I really would encourage you to make different colors this time. I chose copper for the one that you saw at the very beginning of the video. So there is our ball bearing. Now we need 8 of them, but remember we're going to put it in an assembly, so we won't need to make 8. So we're going to go ahead and save that one. Our last part will be the cage. So I'm going to go up to new, make sure I've got standard IPT millimeters. We're going to go ahead and make the cage, so start 2D sketch. Now let's get some circles on here. We'll make 2 circles. I start at the origin. I'll make the first one 172, and I'll make the outer one, I'll make it 188. I am going to go ahead and extrude that, so I just press the E key. I'll click there, and for the thickness here, we want that to be 32 millimeters. So you're going to look like that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and square it back up. All right, and I'll hit sketch on there. And what I'm going to do is take a line tool here, and I'm going to just connect. I'm just making a line right in the middle. This line's eventually going to go away, so if I wanted to, I could just make it a construction line if I wanted. But it's not gonna bother anything if I don't. So I'm gonna say circle now. I'm gonna put it right there in the midpoint. That's really the only reason I made that line, was to get a midpoint. So there's a circle. I'm gonna make that 48 millimeters. This is where the ball from the ball bearing is going to rest. I need to extend the line, so I can click on this and click that line. It'll extend it that way and that way. I need that because I'm gonna do a revolve cut, and that's gonna be the axis that we revolve around. So I'll hit finish sketch now. Go in here to revolve, just kind of like we've done before. I'm going to pick, one side of this thing. Remember, I'm going to click both halves, right? For axis, it's kind of the same we've done right there. Now that did a join, right? So we're going to actually have to click cut. So I click cut, and I click OK. So now I've got a cavity for that ball to go in. It is a little bit sharp here on that, so we're going to put a fillet in there. And that fillet, we're going to make it 5 millimeters. So we'll click fillet, and we'll come over here and click these, and we'll change it. We want that to be 5. Obviously, we're not going to draw every single one of those. We're going to use a pattern. So I'm going to kind of zoom in and rotate a bit where I can see things happening. And then I'm in the features menu, so I'm going to go up here and hit circular, right? And I'm going to choose, I want to make sure to choose those fillets as well, and then the arc, right? Those are my features. My rotation axis, I'm just going to click the outside there, right? And we need there to be 8 of those. So I'm just changing the 6 over to an 8, and I'll click OK. Now we've got some shell work to do here, so check this out. This is going to be different for us as well. We're going to shell 3 things, so check it out. I'm here, I'm going to click shell. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll set the thickness to be 2 millimeters this time. I want to click the inside face. I want to click the outside face. And I want to click the bottom. All right, and then I will click OK. So really, I shelled everything but the top, didn't I? And I made sure the thickness was 2 millimeters. And I hit OK. And there's our cage. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll go up here to our materials. I'm going to choose brass. I am going to go up here and I'll save. All right, so we've got all of these parts now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take it to an assembly, because ultimately we want it to do this, right? We want it to work like this. So let's go ahead and we'll start us a new assembly. Now, really, we should be at standard.iam, and we should use the metric again. I'm going to go to place. I'm going to find those files. So I got to remember where I saved them. I'm just going to pull in the outer race, and then I'm going to pull in the inner race. That's all I'm doing for right now, because if I've found I can get things way too complicated. So now I'll go up here to constrain, and I'm going to use a mate. So I'm going to get the axis here, the axis, and then the axis of the outer bearing. Really, I'm trying to find that arrow. There they are. I'll hit apply. Now I'll go ahead and use a flush because these should be even. All right, so those pieces are taken care of. I need to go ahead on this outer bearing. I need to right click on it and choose grounded. Remember, we always have to have one part grounded. Now I know you probably can't see it, but now I'm grabbing the inner race here and it's spinning like it's supposed to. Okay, if I didn't do the grounding, obviously it wouldn't do what it's supposed to there. So now I'm going to go up here to place, and I'm going to pull in the ball bearing itself. So there it is. I'm going to click OK. Now this is where things get a little unique. So to get started, I am going to go ahead. I'm going to work on all three of these parts. So I'm going to expand every one of these parts. So the outer bearing, that should say outer race. I'm going to expand the origin on that because I'm going to need these things. I'm going to hit the plus sign, expand everything and the origin on the inner race, and then to do the same thing with the ball bearing. So I just expanded everything. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up to constrain, and we're going to use planes over here. That's why we did all this. I'm actually going to go down to the ball first, and I'm going to say YZ. So there's the top one, right? So I'll click that. Notice how it highlighted in yellow here. It actually clicked that plane. And now I'm going to go up here to the outer race and click the YZ plane as well. I know it's not where we want it yet, but it's going to get there. Trust me. So I'm going to click apply. I have a relationship between the ball and the outer race now. I need to put a relationship between the ball and the inner race. So let's do that. So on the ball, I'm going to kind of do the same thing. It's just a different plane. So I'm going to choose the XZ plane here. Go to my inner race, and I'm going to choose the XZ plane on it. And I'll click apply. Nothing's really looking right yet, but here's where it's going to happen. I'm going to hit the tangent constraint now. I'm going to click the ball, and I'm going to click the groove of the inner race. And you're like, but that didn't work. So I'm going to click over here in my different solutions. Look at that. If I click the inside solution, it works. I got to click apply. I can exit the constraint now. And look, as I spin that, it's moving just like it's supposed to do. Now, there's a reason I only said, hey, let's just put one ball in there, right? What we're going to do, and this is new to us, we can pattern constraints. I'm going to go and I'll hit pattern. We're going to select circular. I'm going to go down here and just click ball bearing. I just click the words. I found for me it's easier just to click the words on this one. You might want to click the actual part. It will work the same way. For circular, I need to choose my axis, right? So I'm going to say, all right, give me, click the groove. There's 4. I need 8. So check this out. I'm going to type in 8 where the 4 was. And you were used to something happening there. So I need to put 360 divided by 8, and that's going to give me 45. So now it puts all of those bearing balls in there. And I'll hit OK. So now when I rotate, there they go. So last step is we need to get those cages put in here. So I'm going to go ahead and place. And I'm going to just put both cages in at the moment. So I've got 2 of them in there. I'm like, okay, and done. Now I might need to do some rotate, free rotate here to get these things to where I can visually work with them. So I'm going to free rotate on the cage. And now I'm going to go up to constrain. I want to mate this inside axis, kind of like we did here when we had the inner race and the outer race. But you can see it's a little bit of a stink to get a hold of. So I'm actually going to go expand here on cage 1 and expand the origin. And I'll find the axis this way. That looks like it, Z. And then I want to just mate it to this axis. Rotate around and see what happened here. That actually will work because I'm going to drag it over here. So that'll work just fine. I'll hit apply. Now I'm going to go ahead and exit constraint so you can see like this is going to move. I want this to be over here. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to put tangent constraint in. So I'm going to go to constraint. I'm going to use tangent. And I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to click like the inside arc of one of those cages. And then I'll hit escape and I'm just going to click one of the balls. And now I'm going to have to go down here to solutions and try things out. Like once I click that one, it looks like it put it in the right place for me. So I'll hit apply. Let's rotate it around and let's finish up here. Let's get this job done. So I'm going to free rotate on this cage up here. I remember to click it and then I'll hit free rotate. It tends to work a little better for me. So I'm going to say constrain, leave it at mate, and here's cage 2 it looks like, right? So origin. And really I'm just looking for an axis again. It's probably going to be Z. So there it is, and then find that Z axis over here. There it is. Now let's see where that thing went to. Looks like it has completely overlapped the other one, so I can't see it to work on it. So what I'm going to do is just use one of these solutions for now. Try a different solution, just so I can free it up and get it out of there. All right, there it is. So we'll hit apply. And what I'm going to do is just escape, and I'm going to drag this cage over here. It's going to be the same as last time, though. I'm going to go to constrain now. I'm going to go to tangent. Get one of these inside curves like so. And I'll click one of the balls. And I didn't line up, so remember I used my special powers of solutions and click apply. Let's zoom out here. Let's go ahead and rotate it around, and you can see everything is working just the way it's supposed to work.